Mattie, Virginia, at Waston's Corner. Growing up in the country was wonderful. You know, we had a good life, and I'm glad we didn't have that city life because, you know, we probably half of us wouldn't be here right now if we did. But my dad had a saying. He said, when that school bus come down here, your black ass better get on it. And when that school bus get back down here in the evening, your black ass better be on it.
Right.
And that's what we live by. You went to school, you came home, you did your chores, you looked at TV, and we did have a telephone, so we take turns on our little Blue Princess telephone waiting for somebody to call us. So, you know, as we got older, we had little things in life. We had the school dances and stuff. And it was good, and I thank them for what they did, brought us up, and it was hard. So that's my take on living in the big house.
How you doing today?
Great.
Could you introduce yourself?
Mattie Virginia White, better known as Didden.
Okay. So Didden, you're Mattie's Johnson child?
Third oldest.
Third oldest?
Daughter.
Okay. And what was your nickname again?
Didden.
Okay, Didden. Okay, Didden. How was it growing up as a young kid in the house with your brothers and sisters, your siblings?
Growing up was pretty rough. We didn't have much. Came from a poor family. Well, it was 9 of us. So we managed through it all.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the things y'all ate coming up?
Well, we had our own garden. My parents always had their own garden. They grew their own food. There wasn't no fast food, no McDonald's, Wendy's, of that sort. Everything was home cooked at home. Vegetables straight out of the garden. They raised their own pigs, and they had to slaughter the pigs, and we had to clean the chitlins and cook the ham, and we had beans, homemade biscuits. We had to make homemade biscuits every day. My mother made homemade biscuits. So our meal consists of maybe 1 big pot of soup that fed 9 of us and biscuits. Sundays we got a big dinner. On Sundays we would have cabbage, ham, potato salad, hot biscuits.
Sound like a good meal.
We ate good. We was healthy kids because we mostly ate what was home cooked food.
What's the name of food that you didn't like?
The only thing I didn't like was the black molasses. My mother would make us eat black molasses sandwiches. So I didn't care too much for the black molasses.
What was one of your favorite foods?
My most favorite food was potato salad. It was homemade potato salad.
Homemade potato salad. What were some of the remedies if you guys caught a cold or got sick? What would you use for a cold?
Well, we drank a lot of homemade tea with lemon. My mother would always put a nice big pot of homemade soup on. We ate the soup. We didn't get too sick. We didn't battle too much sickness in those days. Mm-hmm. I think it was because of our diet. We ate a lot of fruit from the fruit trees that grew around the house. Our own apples, pears, blackberries, raspberries. We picked fruit that was grown by nature. So very seldom were we sick kids.
Did you have a lot of candy in those days? Sweets, goodies?
Yeah, we had the BB Bats, the Mary Janes, the squirrel nuts, candy. and mostly lollipops.
Interesting. How was it? When did you discover or realize that you were in poverty with no like electric or running water? What age did you discover you realized that?
I was probably about, I'd say 6, 7 years old. We grew up in a house. We had no running water. We had no electric. We had a wood stove. During that time, we had to go out and my brothers would have to cut the wood and bring in just to start the fire, just to keep warm, especially in the winter. And we mostly cooked on the wood stove to keep warm. We had the lamp light. You had to keep the oil in the lamp so you could have light. And sometimes we used candles. We burned candles for light. And of course, we had an outhouse out back. We didn't have no running water, so we had to go outside the outhouse, or we bought the bucket in the house. Back in those days, they called it the slop bucket.
Snap bucket.
The slop bucket. That's what we had to use. And then somebody had to get up the next day and dump the slop bucket. So you take it down in the woods and dump the slop bucket and bring it back for the next day.
So far as taking a bath or washing up, what do you use?
We had the basin, which if you go into the antique shops today, you'll still see some of the old basins that we used to use back in the day to take a bath, and you would just fill the basin up with water, sit it on the wood stove, heat up the water, get a wash rag, and you washed up. There was no bathtubs. There was no shower. There was no running water. But yet we stayed clean.
So far as schooling, how was it waking up in the morning and going to the bus stop?
The house would be cold, but we managed to get up and get dressed, and we had to walk like a mile to catch the bus. And I remember the days when I used to dread the wintertime, because in the wintertime it would be so cold. By the time we would get to the bus stop, we'd be frozen. And we had the lady, after we walked a mile to the bus stop, we had a lady who would always knew we was coming to her house, because she knew we was coming there to get warm. And we would go to her house, and of course she had the wood stove. And of course, if you was too cold, if you got too close to the old wood stove, you would start aching. Your hands would ache, your feet would ache, because the heat would cause, by you being so cold, you would begin to ache when you was trying to thaw out. And right now that house is still standing down in Tracy's Landing, where we used to go to get warm in the morning. And I remember my sister Mildred would be the main one crying. By the time we get to the bus stop, Mildred would be the one bust out crying. I used to try to be so strong. Even though I was cold, I wouldn't let nobody know I was so cold. I wanted to cry, but I didn't cry.
So Mildred couldn't take it. She would bust
Mildred
out crying.
always would be the one. By the time we got to the bus stop, nose was running, and she'd bust out crying.
So that house is still standing now?
House is still standing down on Franklin Gibson Road.
What was some things y'all did for recreation, for playtime?
Only thing we did was go outside and play. We play hide and go seek, jump rope, or dodgeball. That was our only recreation. Your recreation during those days was go outside, and we'd play as kids together. We'd play with the neighbor kids.
So who do you think was the goodest child and who was the baddest child?
Well, of all the girls, I was the baddest girl. I was always mischievous. I was the fighter. And if you look up my name, Mattie, that's what it stands for, fighter. I would say my oldest brother, Bubba, who's now deceased, he was the baddest of all of us. He was the one who would get the gun on you.
Okay, so he went for bad.
Yeah, he went for bad.
Okay. more like the protector of the family.
Yeah.
So, could you run down how was growing up in segregation, how it was?
Well, during our time, I actually lived through the segregation time where I lived to see white only written over the restaurant doors in Deal, Maryland. And as black folks, we were not allowed to walk in the front door of the restaurant and sit down and eat with the white people. We had to go around the back door to be served. As time went on, I come to realize that, God said he winks at our ignorance. And I realized that it was just ignorance because we were allowed, as black folk, we were allowed to work in their kitchens and cook their food that they were going to consume in their bodies, but we weren't allowed to come in and sit down beside them and eat their food. And what God showed me was, as black folk, we really have good hearts. Because if we were really evil and wicked people, we could have killed a number of them any given day because we could have poisoned them all through their food. They trusted us to cook their food, but they didn't trust us to sit down beside them and eat with them. To me, that was ignorance. I'd rather sit down and eat beside a person and be able to watch a person than have a person in the kitchen behind closed doors cooking for me. So God said he winked at their ignorance because that was just a sign of ignorance. Even though today, we credit Martin Luther King because he was the one who fought to conquer the greatest demon on earth, which was segregation. He conquered that demon. And now that's why today we can sit together as all races and eat together, love one another, marry one another, have kids together, because he fought and conquered that demon. But during that time, as black folk, we were more fearful than anything because it wasn't in our heart to harm anybody or hurt anybody. We couldn't understand why. But as I got older, I realized that it was just a form of ignorance. But thanks be to God that we have come a long ways through Martin Luther King and his dream and what he set out to conquer. And he did conquer that demon because he said he had a dream that one day we would all be holding hands together, and we're living that today. As I speak, we're living it.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait.
So how did that affect your schooling and getting your education?
Well, we weren't allowed, during that time, we weren't allowed to go to the white school. Matter of fact, we were bused from Trace's Landing all the way to, but we went to friendship school as little kids through grade school. But as we got in the 7th grade, we were bused. And they took us past the white school. We had to go all the way to base junior high, base senior high during that time. And we went to the old annex school down on Clay Street. It wasn't until my last year in high school, which I went to Bates up until the 11th grade. And my last year, my 12th grade year, that's when it all changed and we were bused to Southern Senior High. So I did my last year in the white school. And I did really good, which I was amazed. I did really good in the white school. I graduated with as an honor society student, which was great. I had to adjust because I had been in a black school with all black kids all my life and did my last year with the white kids, but I did really well for the change. And I did get my high school diploma and I graduated.
What age did you have your first child?
I was 21 years old when I had my first son.
And what area were you living in then?
I was living in Tracer's Landing on Franklin Gibson Road.
So from your beginning of time as a young girl, what was your first house that you lived in?
The first house that I remember living in was down on Franklin Gibson Road. Actually, right now, there's Charles Maker lives in the house, lives on the land where we used to live, but that house was an old house with no running water, no bath, no electric in it. And then eventually we moved not even a half a mile from there into, we called it the Big House. This house had electric, but it didn't have any running water and bath in it. So we did moved up a little bit higher. We did have electric in this next house we moved in, just no electric, no running water, no bath. We had a pump in the backyard where we had to go out and we had to pump, take the bucket out there and pump the water to and bring the water in. And we had a wood stove for heat, so there wasn't no central heating either. But this house had 7 rooms. So it was a big house because it was 9 of us. My mother had 9 kids, so it was a big house. We had a nice big yard. We had an outhouse out back, like I said, and pump for water. And my stepfather raised the pigs in the backyard, down in the backyard, which was for food. And we had a garden where they grew the vegetables.
So would you say that the Big House was your favorite house?
Yeah, we loved the Big House. Matter of fact, we had parties there. We threw our parties there. We had plenty of room, plenty of space. My mother did a lot of canning of the vegetables and fruits. Of course, we had a pantry where we kept all our canned fruit, applesauce, peaches, pears, and that's what we lived off in the wintertime. When wintertime came, we pulled out the canned food, fruits and stuff to eat.
So, how did you and your siblings have party time? What did y'all do for, like, going out as y'all got older teenage years? Where would you go and party at?
Well, after we got old enough, we always went to River Bend Inn, which is in Wason's Corner, to party on the weekends, or we went to Evans Grill, which is in Forestville, Maryland. Some weekends we went to Collars, that's down in Calvert County. We went to Toys Inn, that's down below Prince Frederick. And some nights we'd go to Moonlight Inn, that's in Waldorf, Maryland.
Okay. So, I know it was 4 girls and 5 guys. Did your brothers hang along with y'all?
Very seldom. Most of the time the girls hung together. Very seldom did my brothers go out with us. We had one cousin that was junior, Bowser Johnson Jr. Now, he hung out with us to protect us. Junior was our protector.
Okay. What was your first car?
My first car was a Vega, V-E-G-A, which we called them lawnmowers because that's all they were. Was a Vega.
So how did you come up with the income to get a Vega?
Well, I always kept a job. Matter of fact, I started working when I was 12 years old. I would go to the white people house up the street and clean, If they had parties, I'd be there, help serve people, help clean up the kitchen. And I also worked and deal in the restaurants. I would cook in the restaurants, and I always saved up my money. At the age of 16, I always had like $500 in my savings account. And during that time, $500 was a lot of money. Matter of fact, back then, $500 could buy you a home. But I always kept $500 in the bank because I always worked and saved up my money.
So you was a hustler, huh?
Yeah, I was a hustler. Starting at 12 years old, I was hustling.
And you went on to further your job skills into which field?
Well, eventually, as time went on, I eventually moved to Annapolis. And I decided I wanted to further my education, so I went to Fleet Business School. And I graduated from Fleet Business School. I took up the secretarial course. I left Fleet Business School typing 70 words per minute. From Fleet Business School, I got hired at the Board of Education down on Riva Road in Annapolis. I was a switchboard operator there. From the Board of Education, I went on to work at MAIF, Maryland Automobile Insurance Fund, and I retired there after 20 years. I did 20 years at the Maryland Automobile Insurance Fund, and I'm currently now retired from the state of Maryland.
In between the transitioning of jobs, when did you have your second child?
After I went to Fleet School for Secretaries. I had my second child before I went to Fleet School for Secretaries. I was living in Harbor House in Eastport. And I decided I wanted to further my education, and I signed up and I got the grant to go to school. Actually, I didn't have to pay for anything. I didn't pay for paper. I didn't have to pay for pencils. I didn't have to pay for ink pens. They gave me the grant. I took advantage of it, and I went to Fleet Business School. During that time, I had just had my second son. And in the morning, I got up and I walked him to Eastport Terrace to the babysitter. And then I would catch the bus and go to Fleet School for Secretary, which then at that time was on Chickapin Round Road in Annapolis.
So how many kids do you have?
2 sons.
Names?
Walter Bryan Jr., known as Buck. And my youngest is Bryan-Queen, better known as Ron.
So, growing up as a kid, I know in the household, kids like to be kids, some good, some bad. How was chastisement when y'all got in trouble? What was your punishment?
Well, if my mother came home from work, because usually she'd walk home from work, and if she caught us doing anything that she felt was inappropriate, my mother would send us we had to go get our own switch off the tree. And when we went to get our own switch off the tree, she would give us a good beating. Of course, we would always try to get the shortest switch, with the less prongs on it. And most of the time, sometime we got punished. We went to bed with no dinner. That was another punishment. Instead of beating us, she sent us to bed with no dinner. So we wouldn't get any dinner that night.
She's eating ass up. She licked Francie a couple times. Them cherry switches.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Boy, you just don't know. Tear your fucking ass up.
That's what she did.
Shit.
With the switches?
Cherry switches, motherfucker. That's a cherry tree right there by you.
Okay.
Just sitting by you. Them motherfucking switches would tell Bubba go out there get them switches. They acting up easy. Mm-hmm.
Is that what they did?
I told them this and that. and they come there late. They come there late. Mom told them be home by 12.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I look, Diddy Daddy, and all that Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, how to say howdy dowdy. Shit, they come there, Mama. They come there at 12:30. Didn't she? Francie, I told you. Look, Mama in that motherfucking baby room, dude, waiting.
Waiting for him to come in.
Shit, you don't fucking know, do you?
Nuh-uh.
Mama in the baby room waiting.
Was she at the switch?
Shit, what the fuck you talking about? My motherfucking cherry switchy boy that fucking long. So you never hit none of them on your ass. Look for how long I'm talking about. That long.
Great nip.
From the skinny end to the fat end. Whop! Whop! Woo! I'm sorry. Yeah,
What did they say, Mama? I'm sorry.
Goddamn, by your mother. Shit, you know, got Frank's ass first, then your mother. Tore their ass up. I mean, look, right on from up around the neck to the ass. Their ass up. Heard them step. Sound like a couple of hogs coming upstairs. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah,
Kind of did it.
Shit, No, you know what I say? Next morning, they down there, licking their wound. I told your damn ass. And shit, Mom better not hear them cursing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit, that's some more, that's some more.
But most of the time, we try to be good kids. You know, with so many of us, 9 of us, we had our little fights. You know how kids go. Brothers and sisters gonna fight. So we had our little pillow fights and had our little arguments. And
So how was it growing up when your mom had to take in her sister's kids, your cousins? How was the relationship and how did y'all get along?
well, we all got along fine, even though it was a lot of us. You know, having my aunt's kids living with us. I was glad to have them because I never really knew them until their mother passed and they came to live with us. We did a lot together, especially me and Emma Jean. She was the oldest girl. I can remember the night that their mom passed away. I had been out on a date, and I came home, and I noticed all these cars were in our yard, and I was wondering that time in the morning, why was all those cars in the yard? And I didn't realize until I got out and the car and went in the house, and my mother told me that my Aunt Emma had passed away. And the next morning, I remember the next morning, my mother wanted to go up to the house where my aunt lived, where she died at. And of all my mother's kids, she took me with her. And this was in Davidsonville. And of course, when we went to the house the next day, we went upstairs where my aunt had passed. She had actually hemorrhaged to death. And I still remember she had bled so much that the blood had ran from upstairs, down the wall, downstairs. And that was like a nightmare in my mind for a long time. And I never understood why my mother, of all her children, why did she take me with her? And I had to see that. But I loved my cousins. We had a good relationship. My mother made sure they ate, made sure they were clothed, and we never felt deprived because they were there, because they were all family. They were our blood. And by their mother passing away at an early age, they were just young kids and they needed a home. They needed love and attention, and my mother gave them just that.
How was it growing up in the home with your stepfather?
Well, it was hard because my stepfather was an alcoholic. He drank a lot. And most of the time when he came home drunk, he wanted to fight my mother and fight us. So as we started getting a little older, we kind of like prepared for him because we knew he was coming home drunk, and we knew when he came home drunk he was going to fight us or fight my mother. So most of the time my mother would just go outside and stay outside. We'd be in the house in bed or whatever, or if she wasn't home, he would fight us. So we started gathering our little weapons for him before he came home drunk. Of course, where we lived, we could see him walking down the highway before he got to the house. So we would gather our bats, our balls, whatever we was going to use to tackle him with. So one time we put pans, all of us put pans in the back of our pants, because he would always take us and beat us with his hands, take us around a circle and beat us. So we all put our pans in the back of our pants. So when he started beating us on our butts, he was hitting the pans. He wasn't hitting our butts, he was getting our pans. So at night, when he would come home, if we were in the bed, if he came in there at night drunk and we was upstairs in the bed, he would come up the steps after us. So this one particular night, we had all our weapons stored waiting for him. We had bats, we had balls. My brother Didi took a globe and struck him side his head with a globe. And I remember the one night he came in drunk, and I was just fed up. I said, I'm tired of this. I said, I'm tired of him fighting us. I'm tired of him fighting my mother. I got up out the bed. I had a vase. I ran downstairs with the vase. I threw the vase at him.
The fighter.
Yeah, the fighter. That's what they called me, the fighter. I threw the vase at him. And when he came I missed him, but when he came at me, I ran in the front yard, but I fell in the front yard and I rolled till my feet hit the road. And when my feet hit the road, I ran all the way to Deal, Maryland in the middle of the night by myself. That's how fed up I was with him fighting my mother and fighting us when he came in drunk. But the only time he fought us when he was drunk. Whenever he was sober, he would sit home and watch TV. You didn't know he was in the house. And I was young at the time, so I didn't understand why the change. But as I got older, I realized what the change was. That's when I began to see how alcohol could change a person's whole demeanor from good to bad. Because it was actually the alcohol that was causing him to be like that. Because when he was sober, he wouldn't even fight us. You didn't even know he was in the house. He was just quiet. But the alcohol would bring out the bad side of him.
So in his later years, did he change a lot?
Well, as he began to get older, he eventually came down with TB from the drinking, which is a lung disease, and they put him away. He was put away at Mount Wilson because during that time, TB was contagious, and they had to get him out of the home from around us. We all had to be tested, but we all tested negative, but they put him away in Mount Wilson. He stayed there for so many months, and when they released him, he came back home to my mother, and he quit drinking. And he was a whole new man. Matter of fact, when we were younger, we used to say the day that my mother got rid of him, we was gonna try to jump and touch the ceiling. That used to be our saying, because the house had a high ceiling. We said when he leave this house, we're gonna jump and touch the ceiling. And the day came when he actually left, and we felt so free. And we felt, during that time we lived in a lot of fear. Because when he came in drunk to attack my mother, some nights I would go in the closet and just put the pillows to my ears, because I would say, I don't want to, if he killed my mother, I didn't want to hear her hollering, because he would always threaten to kill my mother when he was drinking like that. And I would go in the closet and put pillows to my ears, because if I didn't want to hear my mother cries if he killed her. Plus, he would go and get the shotgun at my mother sometime. She'd bust the front window out of his car, because he wouldn't let her in the house, and he'd go and get the shotgun, or he would set the house on fire. And we'd be upstairs scared to death, because because we had that wood stove, and he would pack the stove full of wood. And you know, in those old houses, you could hear the fire roaring up the chimneys. And of course, we'd be upstairs, we could hear it coming up the chimney. So we would be afraid that he was going to set the house on fire. And one time, he did set it on fire. And we all had to run outside in the night. So living in the house with an alcoholic was very terrifying. It was a very terrifying experience.
So, being still you're one of the kids that moved to the city, what was the change from transition from the county life to the city life?
Well, leaving from the country and all that I had experienced in the home, when I moved into Annapolis, I really didn't like what I felt in Annapolis City when I first moved there. And from that point, after moving there, I finally was introduced to a nice church that was walking distance to where I was living. And upon being introduced to the church, which was Antioch, the Apostolic Church, and going to that church, and I got baptized and received the Holy Ghost, and that's when my whole life changed.
So where do you live now?
Right now, I'm here in Wason's Corner. I'm back in the country, which I never thought that I would wind up moving back to the country, because I was born and raised in the country, but I love it here. I love it here because it's peaceful, it's quiet, my mother feels safe. I can leave her here, she still feels safe, she doesn't battle any fear. We don't have a lot of crime in this area, breaking and entering and that sort of stuff. To me, it's like living in heaven. We don't have a lot of murders and all that kind of stuff going on, and robberies in this area. It's a nice area to live in.
So how do you feel about the crime right now?
Well, since I just lost my oldest son was murdered in Annapolis. And it's been kind of rough and hard for me losing my son, because he was at a point in his life where he was really just trying to be a good father to his two sons, and finally had got his own place to live, and he was doing so well and looked like his life was snuffed out. But right now, the main thing I would say to our young, especially our young black men right now, is, you know, for years we've labored the Ku Klux Klan as white, and we always felt like they were out to take the blacks out. But now, to me, what I would say, let the truth be told, the real Ku Klux Klans are among my own black brothers. They're killing each other. We don't have to worry about a Ku Klux Klan taking a black brother out nowadays. They're taking each other out, and it's time for our young black men to wake up and realize what they're doing to each other. And the Bible says there's going to be 7 men to 1 woman. There's going to be 7 women to 1 man. And there's going to be some truth in that, because right now we're losing our black men at a rapid rate. And if the black race don't wake up and realize what they're doing to each other, actually we're showing each other that we hate one another. We hate our own race. So my thing is, it's time to pray for our black brothers, that their eyes will be open and they'll get a grip on life and realize that only God is the answer right now. Only He can change their lives and help us to love one another all over again, because we're really hating on each other.
Get the information from Aunt Doris and them, how many children the ones that was living. Uncle Kenner had, and then Basil. Uncle Ernest didn't have none. Aunt Doris had 1, and Emma had 8 because she lost one. Mama had 9. That's about it. I was just trying to get everything together. How old it was when they died and everything like that. Mm-hmm.
You know how put the pictures back having this too? I knew you probably wouldn't have one of Emma.
And
they put a photo back with you.
Nope, Aunt Emma died 1977 because that was the same Saturday she died. She was supposed to come and see Monty, and she had drank herself to death. And never did then when we did not come. We thought it was Aunt Emma coming. I said, this late in the night, but she was supposed to be bringing me a Viewmaster.
What's that?
The little things you used to look through and click the button.
Oh, the old toys, yeah.
I always loved them things. And she was supposed to be bringing me one. Back room, you had 1, 2, 3, and you could get 3 beds, 3 big double beds in that room and a single bed. So the back bedroom went all the way across the length of the house. So you could get more than 1 double bed in there. Shoot, you survived back then. And you figured Mama cooking for all them children. For all them children, Mama had to cook.
So everybody was sleeping everywhere.
You was sleeping in a bed. You wasn't sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
The boys had their room, and then the girls had their room. No, you made do. You made do. Everybody had a bed to sleep in. You ain't sleep on the floor, that's for sure.
So Calvin was still upstairs. Well, Calvin ain't had no kids then.
No, we was all home.
Yeah.
Let me see.
At what age did you leave?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm always at a car. And then Uncle Baz would come in his old gray Packard.
Where he was living at during that time?
Mitchellville.
Oh yeah, where that's at? That's
Mitchellville or Lothian too.
Okay.
Towards the later years, he was living in Lothian. Mitchellville is up 301.
Okay, that's right.
But those were the good old days, though, because you could have fun, you could run, you had to stay, you could go outside. Then you had to worry about locking your doors. Shoot. It was fun, because you could always find something to do outside. Marbles.
Play jacks.
Ride the monkey vines. The vines like Tarzan swing on.
Yeah. Nana said she used to work when Grandpa was something. She'd make $2. She said, "Know what? I had to give him one of them." So what y'all used to do with this?
On your clothes.
Wow.
Sit it on top of that wood stove.
And let it heat up?
And get it hot.
Oh, wow. Look at it.
That's all right. Dee ain't been back yet, has he? And then we take the lock off.
Now push it all the way so it locked me.
I did.
You did?
You clicked.
The food been good? Food good here? Huh?
He
taste like this.
Yeah. It looked like it looked alright. It looked good. They say they want you to drink more, Nene.
Yeah, I know.
Drink more fluids. They got you all type of drinks right now. Milk, tea. They got you milk, tea, and something else, ain't it?
They give you this every meal.
Every meal, okay, the milk. They keep your bowels going. Yeah, they say it's supposed to get black at 2 o'clock in the day.
When is it?
Monday.
We'll see.
That's what I said. That's what you said. That's the same thing I said. I said, we'll see. Because I'm like, God ain't do nothing. I ain't never see God do nothing like that. You? Not your days you been living, huh? They said 2 o'clock Monday, the sun, something supposed to come over the sun. Like,
Cloudy.
yeah, but they said it's supposed to get pitch black dark like it's nighttime. 2 o'clock in the daytime. We ain't never had nothing like that. So there's only y'all 3 boys left. You, Johnny, and Calvin.
It was today, except that the number is different.
You know that.
The only thing that changes.
Yeah.
There's 3 y'all left.
But now they done went up to $156. And I went on and checked on and said some kind of utility rate went up, so everybody went up, Mr. Jones. Then I was getting 97 hours for food stamps. They cut them back to $60. They said some, yeah, said that she told me I went down welfare bill, said, Mr. Jones, they cut a decrease in everybody's stamp. They claim by them people down there in the United States helping out your Mexican people and they had that hurricane and government down there. Yeah, they're down there taking care of them people. Them people ain't no care to us.
They cut Johnny's shoe.
Yeah, they cut Johnny's too?
Yeah. She told me the woman on welfare bill and I went down there 2 weeks ago and she said, Mr. Jones did cut a decrease in everybody. Everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, I would, but see, I go to 3 different churches.
Oh, show them the churches you
Yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
The lighthouse do too.
I went over there last Tuesday. Woman paid me wrote me a $128 check on my liquor bill, and she gave me a whole bunch of food out the kitchen. With big bowls like that, coleslaw, potato salad, 2 great big bowls of hamburger. Gave me so much stuff I couldn't even told all of it. And everything is. See, over there where I live at, there's 2 churches though. You can go to one of them every Tuesday. And they give you canned goods every Tuesday you can go there. You gotta go there early in the morning, you sign in, and they let you in about 11 o'clock, 12 to 11. And they give you bread, canned goods, sometimes they have meat, sausage, and hot dogs.
They give you cash too?
Nah, they don't give you no money. They used to years ago, most of them churches stop.
My father, he go over to the lighthouse and get the food over there.
Oh yeah, you can go there, but you gotta make an appointment there.
Yeah.
And they'll give you 2 bags of groceries, you know, and different stuff they give. Then but they got a pantry that they keep open and going in. Went out there and probably a month ago now and give you vegetables, cookies, a whole bunch of bread, a whole bunch of them. One say, take everything you want to. What they don't give away, they gonna throw it in the trash anyway. And give me like 1 ounce. It's for 7 different churches you can go to.
I think the hurricane came through, well, that way was strong. The first time I seen that, you know, you see stuff like that when a hurricane comes through, but you know.
You like it? Was that a little something, something?
the residents of South and Arundel County. My condolences are sent to her beloved family and friends. Presented on the 17th day of July 2018 by Senator John Aston of Anne Arundel County Legislative District. Again, tomorrow's General Assembly Memorial, be it hereby known to all that sincerest sympathy is extended to the family of Marion Mattie Elizabeth Johnson. For the lifelong member of Anne Arundel County, in her 92 years, she touched many lives in her community and will surely be missed. Presented on this 28th day of July 2018 by Delegate Seth Powers, the Anne Arundel County Legislative District 3rd. I would like to say just a few things to the family, just for a minute, sir. I've been knowing the family for many years, down through the years. My mother, the late Margaret Joyce, and many people call her sister, was for over 50-some years. And she did this fatty hair many times, melted hair, and the rest of the family. Family, I come to bring you love from the Dorsey family